in the sense that,
Sorry, I had forgotten to start the recording. Yeah, good.
no worries. So there is nothing wrong with specialty in, because there are times when it is needed. If you have an accident and you damage your hand, you need somebody who has that specialized understanding and knowledge, right? So I'm not demeaning that in any way, but I'm saying that for chronic ailments, that is not necessarily the most optimal way to go. So it therefore treats the whole system and not just the symptoms, right? I thought one can, understand the approach of functional medicine a little more clearly if I was to contrast it with conventional medicine, right? So conventional medicine is largely based on symptoms, right? So let us say I have high blood sugar. I go to the doctor and the doctor will identify the symptoms and say you have diabetes, correct? And that becomes the starting point for the entire treatment process. Whereas here, I'm not really interested in what is the name of the disease. Okay, I'm interested in, if somebody comes to me with high blood sugar, I'm interested in asking the right questions, doing the right investigations to understand why is the why is this body no longer able to keep the blood sugar under control, right? What are the reasons? What are the root causes? That is the functional medicine approach. So therefore, the conventional system becomes disease oriented. Okay, in the I think there is a body in America, which, I mean, obviously the conventional medical system, we follow America, right? In that sense, they have a list of over 50,000 unique diseases, right? So you can imagine, right? The whole process is to identify which disease somebody has and then go to the next step of treating it. But here we are not so focused on the disease identification. Okay, we are more focused on health, because the understanding is that if I can do what is required to improve the body's health, the disease will anyways reverse. So my business is not so much with the disease, but it is more with the health. If you ask the question, okay, why am I getting diabetes, why am I getting this problem, that problem, most of the time the answer gets, the blame gets passed on to genetics. But this has actually been disproven by science in the last 10-15 years. This is known as the science of epigenetics now, wherein we have realized, or we have understood, that what is happening in your body, which genes are getting activated and which are getting deactivated, depends on your lifestyle choices, what you eat, how you think, whether you do exercise or not, etc., right? So lifestyle choices. Conventional system is palliative in approach, more focused on, handling the symptoms. You have high BP, take a pill, it will bring the BP down, right? Whereas we are focused on solutions. How can I solve this problem completely? Mind's intelligence versus body's intelligence, this is little amorphous, where we, at least in functional medicine, believe that we don't need to cure the body. The mind need not necessarily even be capable of really understanding everything in the body, as of today at least. But our job is to support the body. The body's intelligence will do the remaining job of healing itself. That intelligence is built in every single cell of the body. So we give importance to that, and we see our role as supporting that, giving it what it needs and removing what it doesn't want, right? We already discussed specialized versus holistic. In the conventional system, early detection becomes important. Nothing wrong with that. If I have a disease, I definitely want to know about it earlier, right? But here the idea is how I can move to a state where disease is prevented. Because the conventional system generally fails to cure chronic ailments, it becomes a long drawn and expensive process. Whereas the functional medicine may be a little more expensive initially, sometimes, not always, but it is much more cost effective in the long run because it has the potential to really reverse the health issues. Right? Uh, One can, understand this in many, many ways. One condition, let's say depression, it could arise because of a multitude of factors. I have just taken 5 or 6 here. Antibiotics can create depression. Okay. I'm not going into all the connections of how it happens here. But know this, that overuse of antibiotics can actually push your system towards depression. Also, this actually tells us that depression need not necessarily be a mental disorder. It's actually a physical problem, right? Just the deficiency of omega-3 and also vitamin D, etc., can create depression. Okay. Poor thyroid function can create depression. Vitamin D, I already spoke. And pre-diabetes can create depression. Okay. You are not yet diagnosed as a diabetic, but you are moving in that direction. The reverse is also true. One cause can lead to many conditions. Okay. So let us say inflammation. What is inflammation? I guess today mostly everybody has a certain amount of familiarity and understanding with this, given the COVID pandemic, right? Everybody is talking about inflammation caused by the immune response to the virus, the cytokine storm, etc., which is actually a protective process. But when it goes out of control, it can be harmful, right? So inflammation can cause CVD, cardiovascular disease. The blockage in your arteries is actually caused by inflammation. The damage happens because of that. To repair the damage, body actually puts a patch of cholesterol. Okay. So cholesterol is not your enemy. Actually, it is the inflammation which is the enemy. It can cause depression. It can cause arthritis. It can cause cancer. It can cause diabetes, and so on. Okay. Just one dynamic in the body, when it goes out of control, can result in any number of chronic health issues. As I mentioned in the first slide, that functional medicine actually thrives on the science of interconnections and trying to understand how different parts, different organs, and different functions of the body are impacting the rest of the system. Okay. So I've given, selected here some information that I'm hoping will be able to convey this understanding. So root causes can be categorized in these few, categories. Inflammation, metabolic syndrome is essentially the process where the food that you eat is not being handled well by the body when it comes to the final usage of that food for production of energy. Okay. Deficiencies, toxins, stress, and sedentary lifestyle and food sensitivities. Because we are focusing on hormones, I'll speak more about that here. Inflammation can create high or low level of male hormones, androgens. Metabolic syndrome can do that. We will look at it in more detail. Okay. Deficiencies can definitely do that, right? To produce the hormones, body needs raw material. If that is not in, proper supply, obviously the production of hormone will suffer, isn't it? Toxins can do that. Stress definitely can do that. I don't even have to tell you, right? If you're stressed out, the production of stress hormones will go up, isn't it? Adrenaline, etc., will go up. Sedentary lifestyle can do that. Food sensitivities are playing a major role. It's a new topic which wasn't a big issue, at least in our country, 10, 15, 20 years back. Okay. Estrogen dominance, you will see now later on in this session, is playing a major role, especially when it comes to the health issues for women, the PCOS related dynamics. Okay. Just higher level of insulin, metabolic syndrome, can create estrogen dominance. Toxins can do that. Hypothyroidism, Hashimoto's, the autoimmune hypothyroid, is created by food sensitivities. It can be created by stress and toxins, and definitely by inflammation. Hyperthyroid is not so common, but again, same set of root causes, nothing different. High cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone. It prepares the body for activity. And we find a lot of, so there should be a curve. It should peak a couple of hours before you wake up. Okay. Because Your system is getting ready for activity in the morning. And then progressively it goes down, down, down all the way till late in the night when it starts rising again, preparing the body for the next morning activity. But today, when we do these testing, we find that a lot of people, the overall level is much higher, and then the curve has changed. It doesn't go down when it should go down, it goes up and it goes down at some other time, creating havoc in the body. Why it's happening? Same reasons. Nothing, separate. A lot of people today struggle with poor sleep quality, insomnia, etc. Melatonin is your sleep hormone, right? So very simple connections. If you're stressed out, cortisol will be high, melatonin will go down immediately. Okay. If your insulin levels are high, melatonin will go down. Certain toxins can do that, deficiencies can do that. So if all of these things are happening, what is the end result? What do we end up with in terms of recognizable diseases? Diabetes, cardiovascular disease, cancer, PCOS, autoimmunity, complete, stoppage of periods, no ovulation, overall low energy, fatigue, tiredness, skin issues, very, very common, psoriasis, eczema, etc. Sleep related issues, obesity, and even neurodegenerative disorders, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, etc. Okay. And it's only a very short list. The actual list is much longer. I've only taken what I can fit in this box here. So the point is, whatever might be the final expression of a disease for an individual, the root causes can almost always be traced back to the same few categories. This is just a, a kind of a image to help us understand that literally every hormone in the body is interacting with every other hormone. So if one goes out of balance, it's like a domino effect. You're starting off the domino effect. One domino falls today, another might fall 6 months, 1 year, 2 year down the line, but it will fall unless we do something about what happened now. The reason which caused the first domino to fall. A slightly different, way to understand the interconnections in the body. Just let us take vitamin B2. Okay. There are many B vitamins, right? B1, B2, B3, B5, B6, like that goes up to 12 and even beyond. B2 is required to convert B6 into its final active form, which is known as P5P. Okay. Now, P5P is critical for the synthesis of serotonin. Serotonin is a neurotransmitter. It affects every cell in the body, but also it affects how the brain is functioning. And 90% of the serotonin is produced not in your brain, but in your intestines, actually. Okay. So B6, the active form of B6 is critical for this production. Serotonin has many, many roles. I've just taken one, which is the production of melatonin. Unless your serotonin production is sufficient, you will not have sufficient melatonin in the body. If you don't have sufficient melatonin, you will not have proper, deep, undisturbed sleep. Okay, you will struggle with sleep. If you are not sleeping properly, the body, not necessarily the mind, the body can also get stressed physiologically, right? The body starts getting stressed. And when that happens, the cortisol levels start going up. When cortisol levels start going up, immediately what will happen is the production of the acid in your stomach and the other digestive enzymes in the stomach and overall in the digestive system will start reducing. Okay. Why is that happening? It's actually body. It's not that the body has actually forgotten how to function or it is functioning incorrectly or malfunctioning. No, body is actually functioning exactly how it is designed to function. What is that? See, we have lived in the jungle, in nature for millions of years before we became civilized, right? And came to cities and all. When you were living in the jungle, the only real stress was actually risk of life. That
And the
some animal, the only real stress was that some animal is thinking that you are his food, right? So that is the only risk that your, the subconscious part of your mind and your deeper brain understands. So you are uh, when you are stressed out, your mind, your brain is actually thinking that there is a wild animal trying to catch you and kill you. In that condition, why would the body waste its energy on digesting food? It's a waste of energy. It will pump all the energy towards your skeletal muscles so that you can run faster, maybe you can climb a tree quicker, or you can fight the animal, fight or flight response, right? So it will bring the secretions down. It will slow down the digestive process and everything else, which is not necessary for that purpose of survival in that situation, right? When the digestive system slows down like this, you will not be able to absorb enough nutrition from the food that you eat, which might end up in a deficiency of B2 riboflavin, which will go on perpetuating the problem now. You will not have enough B6, which means you will not have enough serotonin, which means you will not have enough melatonin, which means you will not have proper sleep, which means you will be perpetually stressed out. So it's it's amazing to slowly start understanding these interconnections, how different things in the body are interconnected, how they impact each other, different systems working with each other, changing their behavior depending on what kind of environment the body finds itself in. And you can go on telling yourself, oh, I'm okay, I'm not stressed, but you can't fool the body knows what's really happening with you in your mind. So there is more which I will skip because of time. Just looking at some figures, this is actually some 4 5 years old data. Diabetes, 77 million diabetics in India, and the actual number of people who are pre-diabetic and not really diagnosed also is actually much more than this. Okay, India is being referred to as the diabetes capital, as the heart disease capital, as the cancer capital of the world. PCOS related issues, 1 in 5 women, 4 to 5 women have PCOS related issues. Hypertension, 1 in 3 adults have BP related issues, either too high or too low. Autoimmunity, again, this is something which is increasing rapidly now. Just hypothyroidism is 1 in 10. And there are at least, 30, 40, 50 common autoimmune disorders. So you can imagine the total incidence of autoimmunity. Gut issues, digestive issues, easily 1 in 4 or 5 people, right? The common link between all of these and other chronic ailments is the same: stress, metabolic disorders, inflammation, and poor gut health, digestive health. I'm sure all of us are, familiar with this adage that has come from Ayurveda, that सारे रोगों की जड़ पेट में है. All diseases begin in the digestive system, in the gut. Modern science is beginning to understand this actually now. What our sages said thousands of years back, now modern science is beginning to actually understand this. You have cancer, it begins in the gut. You have Alzheimer's, it begins in the gut. You have diabetes, it can begin in the gut. You have heart disease, it begins in the gut. You have migraine, it's in the gut. You solve the gut, the rest of the problem will disappear, body will take care of itself. So as we mentioned, we'll focus a little bit on the PCOS dynamic. Most common form of hormonal imbalance for women. Okay, easily up to 20-25% of women in the reproductive age bracket are struggling with this. Till a few years back, this problem would get diagnosed only for women in their 30s, mid 30s, late 30s, but now 14-year-old girls are being diagnosed with PCOS, PCOD. Out of women who have these issues, almost 88% are overweight or obese, and 20% can be lean but still have the problem. But a vast majority are overweight. It is considered a lifelong disease with no solution in the conventional system. It also creates a very high, possibility of getting other ailments like diabetes, thyroid issues, cardiovascular issues, etc. So, what are the main reasons or drivers for these hormonal imbalances? Insulin resistance, which is essentially the underlying reason for metabolic syndrome. Okay, high level of insulin in the blood. Remember, insulin is a hormone, it's a very powerful metabolic hormone. This is the hormone that actually gets our food into the cells. You can eat whatever food you want, right? But finally, it needs to enter each cell in the body. Only then it is useful. That function is performed by insulin. We will look at what is insulin resistance. And the second major driver for hormonal imbalance, especially for women, is the disruption of the endocrine, the reproductive endocrine system, where estrogen becomes too much, which can happen either because you are eating foods that increase that, or you have toxins in the body which mimic estrogen, etc. Okay, this is an effort to explain the insulin resistance dynamic. The first graph is generally what most of us are eating. Okay, let us say white rice, right? Because we are in South India, the staple diet is rice and white rice, something very unnatural. In nature, there is nothing called white rice. It is only after processing, refining, that it becomes white. Right? So let us say you eat lunch with half a kg of rice, 400-500 grams of rice. Within 40 minutes, this rice will be digested and absorbed. It will start getting absorbed into the bloodstream. After digestion, this carbohydrate in the rice turns into glucose. So the glucose line will start rising, spiking up sharply. As that happens, body will start producing and releasing insulin into the blood. Why? Because glucose in the blood is very harmful, actually. It is necessary, but it is also very harmful. So body wants to get it out of the blood and get it into the cells. And that is a job done by insulin. Compared to eating a refined carbohydrate like white rice or sugar, or even the maida like wheat atta that we get, if you were to eat the traditional forms of these things, brown rice, red rice, millets, which are not refined, there is carbohydrate content, yes, but it comes with a lot of other things, with a lot of fiber, with a lot of phytonutrients, with a lot of vitamins, minerals, so many things. The digestion will happen slowly. Okay. So the same amount of glucose might finally enter your body, but it will happen slowly over a longer period of time. Okay, 3 to 4 hours. And the curve will not be as sharp. It will be a flatter curve. That sharp curve is actually the driver of all the diseases which are connected with metabolic syndrome. And I gave you a sample list earlier. Just that one thing. Why does it happen? Why does insulin level go up beyond what is optimal, to a point where it starts hurting the body? See, your cells don't allow glucose to enter unless insulin comes and sits on the receptor. The blue dots here are insulin. So the blue dots come and sit on one receptor. Only then the other, the gate will open and glucose will be able to enter the cell. That is the process. When you have been consuming a diet high in refined carbohydrates for a long period of time, a certain amount of fatigue starts setting in. There is already too much glucose inside the cell, it doesn't want more. So it starts deactivating or desensitizing the receptors. So insulin can come and sit on the cell receptor, but still the cell will not allow glucose to enter. What happens as a result? More of the glucose remains in the blood for a longer period of time. When the body senses this, it responds by secreting more insulin, because that is the only method it has to move the glucose inside the cells. So in a healthy cell, the moment insulin comes and sits on the receptor, the gate will open and glucose will enter. But in a cell which has developed resistance to insulin, many of those receptors will stop working properly. Only a few will work. Essentially, what will be the end result? The glucose will stay in the blood for longer, and the body will respond to this by producing more insulin. Okay. So less glucose is absorbed by the cells, more glucose in the blood, body responds by secreting more insulin, which another function it performs, which is basically of converting excess food uh, into a form that can be stored for the future use, which is fat basically. So then the body starts converting this excess glucose into triglycerides and starts storing it away. And now you know, right, where your your cholesterol problem comes from. It doesn't come from eating fat, it comes from eating carbohydrates. Okay. And there's been a huge effort 35 years back by the sugar lobby in America to, that is when actually this was getting understood by the scientists. And they made a huge amount of effort to actually create fake research and pass the blame on to fat. That fat is what is causing all this problem, consumption of fat. And that is how we demonized fat, and we have ended up with such poor health globally, because whatever America does, all the other countries start following sooner or later. So this is the essential process which also leads towards type 2 diabetes. Okay. As this goes on increasing, this dynamic, this resistance of the cells to insulin, the body responds by producing more and more insulin. Okay. But the body's ability to produce insulin is limited. It cannot produce unlimited amount. So ultimately, generally after 10, 15 years, a point comes when your body can no longer produce the required amount of insulin. And that is when it loses control of the blood sugar completely. Then it starts going above, fasting sugar 120, 130, 150. But actually the process started 10, 15 years back when the fasting sugar started going above levels of 75, 80. But how we have constructed the entire medical system is we don't bother about it. It can go on creeping 2 or 3 points up every year. It may take 10 years to get from 80 to 100. Only when it crosses 100, we'll say you are diabetic and now you need medicine, or you're pre-diabetic, etc. The same thing actually can be prevented much, much earlier, where it will be much easier to handle because the disease dynamic is not so deeply entrenched in your system, right? Anyways, moving on. So vicious cycle of insulin resistance. Let's start with the first one, circle here at the top. So we are eating refined carbs. We have a sedentary lifestyle. We don't do any exercise. We don't burn up the glucose. We have toxins in the body which further reduce the sensitivity of those insulin receptors. And we have chronic stress. All of these lead to insulin resistance, which means glucose goes up and more insulin is being made by the body to try and handle it. Over time, the cells are resisting insulin. This goes on increasing the resistance. As it goes on increasing, more and more insulin keeps on circulating in the blood. And your blood sugar also starts, rising slowly. And you are also converting this excess glucose into fat. You are gaining weight, and you, in spite of making efforts, exercising, etc., you are not able to reverse this weight gain in any sustainable manner. But the interesting thing is that you are putting on weight, but actually your cells are starving now because glucose is not entering, and you feel hungry, weak, and tired and fatigued. And actually you crave for sugar at that time. Your cells will make you crave for sugar, okay, for fuel, because they're not getting it. It's there in the blood, but it's not entering the cells. You end up eating more of the same things which actually created the problem: refined carbohydrates, sugary stuff. So you see how it becomes a self-perpetuating vicious cycle. And that is the reason why people, once they get diabetes, it's like a life sentence. You can never come out of it. That's their thought process. And that thought process has been, kind of given to them by the medical system. That what all it impacts. Okay, high levels of insulin cause more fat deposit. We already looked at this, right? This fat deposit actually produces hormones. Okay, it secretes many hormones. It also leads to what is known as fatty liver. Okay, it leads to diabetes. It leads to high cholesterol problems. It leads to actually many more things. But high insulin is also causing a higher amount of male hormones in the body. So for females, this shows up in the form of hair growth, right, on the face or different parts of the body, as acne, or as male pattern baldness, where they start losing hair, hair starts falling. All of these are actually signs that there is too much insulin in the body. That is a primary driver of these dynamics. And the higher amount of estrogen here will lead to the PMS kind of situation where your periods are irregular. You start getting lumps or fibroids, etc. So these are all the various symptoms of PCOS: hair loss, anxiety, depression, acne, belly fat, pain in the pelvis area, cysts in the ovary, uterus, etc. Irregular cycles, weight gain, or difficulty you losing it, facial hair, etc., pigmentation on the skin, insomnia, etc. Okay, and honestly, if you look around yourself and you look at women in that age uh, bracket, you will see a lot of them are going through these problems. Lot of them, and most of them will have more than one of these actually. Okay, so what the other reason we said, one was insulin resistance, the other was estrogen dominance. What are the reasons? Xenoestrogens means estrogens that are not produced in the body, they're coming from outside. They're not supposed to in nature, right? But today we have created a situation where through our food and other substances, they're entering the body. They're coming through, a lot of synthetic chemicals like our pesticides, fungicides, etc. They're coming through a lot of our household cleaning products. They're coming through a lot. A huge source of that is actually the personal care products, the cosmetics that women use. Okay. This problem of excess estrogen in the body is happening first. Body is producing more, right? We saw in the previous slide. And then so many of these artificial estrogens are entering the body. This problem gets aggravated when your liver function is compromised and it is unable to detoxify these chemicals, whether endogenous or exogenous. Both need to be detoxified, right? And the primary detoxifier of the body is the liver. And if you saw the previous slide, uh, one key thing that happens is fatty liver when you have high insulin. Fatty liver means the liver function will slow down. It will not be able to detoxify, leading to compounding of the problem, right? Even if it detoxifies, finally the exit route of those, that is the gut, your large intestine, right? The body throws it out through the stool, basically. If the gut health is poor, if you have a leaky gut, if you have constipation, what will happen? These toxins will stay in the intestines for much longer than they were supposed to. And what is the role of the large intestine mainly? Let us say absorption, right? They will get reabsorbed into the body again and again, again and again. So you see again how disease begins in the gut. रोगों की जड़ कैसे पेट में है, हमारे डाइजेशन में है. So something as simple as constipation can be at the root cause of hormonal imbalance. How is it treated? Just by giving you OCPs, contraceptive pills. You're not getting periods, okay, take the pill, period will happen. That is an artificial period. Body is not in a condition to create the period naturally, so you're forcing it to do that, right? That is not a solution. That's like a band-aid for a huge big wound. Sorry for the poor formatting of this slide, but what are the different sources of these xenoestrogens, the ones that are coming from outside? It can be conventional produced or animal products. The fruits, vegetables, grains, etc. that we eat, it could actually be gut dysbiosis. What I mean by dysbiosis is imbalance of bacteria in your gut, basically. Healthy bacteria are going down and unhealthy bacteria are increasing in your gut. That is what dysbiosis means. Actually, HRT, hormone replacement therapy, can do this. As I said, personal care products are a huge source of these artificial estrogens. Polluted water, which has not been filtered properly, can cause this. Conventional cleaning products, BPA, plastics can do it. Stress can do it, can create more estrogen in the body. Okay. So again, how they impact the functioning is, see, again, your cells have a receptor to estrogen also. So when estrogen goes and sits there, it sends a certain signal to the cell to do certain types of activity. Now these artificial estrogen-like chemicals, they go and sit on the same receptor and they make the cell do things that it is not supposed to do. And that leads to the imbalances, different problems that we see in the body. Once again, I think these are, at least women would be familiar with these, different symptoms that happen as a result of these imbalances. So estrogen dominance leads to PCOS, it leads to fibroids, it leads to adenomyosis, endometriosis, lumps in the breasts, etc. The other very common dynamic, and this is, I think, the last thing I will cover in terms of diseases, is hypothyroidism. Again, women are like, I think 8 to 10 times more likely than men to get hypothyroid problem. Okay. Now, again, when you go to a normal conventional system of medicine, the only solution is thyroxine, the T4, the thyroid hormone you're given in the pill form every morning. Before you do anything else, you have to take that pill. Never really, asking or answering the question, why is the thyroid function not happening properly? There are multiple reasons. Okay, the first reason is not enough raw material to produce the hormone, right? So I have given what are the key raw materials required to produce the thyroid hormone on the screen here, right? Then insulin resistance can create hypothyroidism. It can reduce the amount of thyroid hormone production. Autoimmunity is a very big cause of thyroid problems, wherein your immune system is actually attacking and damaging the thyroid gland. Okay, autoimmunity is a huge topic by itself. This is not the time to go into it, but just think about it. The fundamental purpose for which the immune system exists is to protect your body. And that is turning around and attacking and damaging the body. There must be a reason, right? It cannot be happening randomly. So again, disease begins in the gut. This disease also begins in the gut. Okay. Specifically food sensitivities and leaky gut. Chronic stress, very, very direct connection with the thyroid. The moment you have the slightest stress, the first thing that goes up is cortisol secretion. The moment cortisol secretion goes up, the thyroid function goes down immediately. Okay. And many toxins can have the same effect: mercury, lead, heavy metals, aluminum. The fluorine in your toothpaste can do this actually. It's a major cause of hypothyroidism. Different mechanisms of how hypothyroidism happens, we don't need to go into that, but all I'm saying is that there is a reason why it's happening, and once you understand the reason, you can actually identify and reverse it. It's not so difficult. So all these ailments that we looked at, right, all of this actually boils down. Generally everything is blamed to genetics, but actually it boils down to that a large part of the impact is happening because of poor diet, which is poor in real nutrition but very high in refined carbohydrates, trans fats, etc. Okay, deficiencies. I have, in the last 3-4 years of practicing functional medicine, I have worked with close to 100 people on a one-to-one basis and a few hundred through the group programs that I do. I think I have not come across a single person who has chronic health issues but has no deficiencies in the body. not one person like that. Okay. Food sensitivities, two main drivers for that are wheat and milk products. Increased permeability of the gut. I'm sure many of you are familiar with leaky gut. I will not go into details again. Imbalance in your gut bacteria. Okay, the friendly bacteria are either reducing in number, unfriendly are increasing, or even the friendly ones, if they come to the wrong place or in the gut, they can cause problem. Okay, malabsorption of nutrition, chronic stress, non-native EMF, all of these radiations are creating havoc with our body's functioning. We don't realize it, and we are not told also. Okay. Toxic load, heavy metals, plastics, personal care products, and all of this gets aggravated when the body's ability to detoxify is hampered by a variety of reasons. It can be because of nutritional deficiencies, because the body requires raw materials, right, to do the process of detoxification. It doesn't happen out of the blue. It could be happening because your liver function is suboptimal. It could be happening because your gut function is suboptimal. You could have a sedentary lifestyle, or you have, foods that mimic different hormones in your body. So all of these factors are actually things that we can change. We have the ability or the control over them. Genes, maybe we can't control, but all of these we can. And that is the message that I want to, all of you to take home today, that it doesn't matter what is your chronic ailment. Chronic ailment is happening because somewhere we were not able to give the body what it needed, or we gave too much of what it doesn't want, right? And definitely that is in our hands. We can change it. So some, low hanging fruits. If you have chronic health issues that you're struggling with, just stop wheat, milk products, eggs, refined sugars, processed food, junk food, and alcohol just for 1 month. Completely. Okay. When you stop, it means you feel like a monk. Not one drop of milk should go, not one grain of gluten, wheat should go in your body. That is how you have to stop. If you do that, I would say at least 60-70% of the people will see that 60-70% of the problem will get solved. Literally. What you're eating, move to more fresh, organic produce, increase the variety. Okay. Rainbow diet, when we mention, we are essentially trying to convey the fact that eat as wide a variety of food as possible. Consciously look for different natural colors of ingredients. Okay. Because each of those colors are bringing some very specific, wonderful nutrition for the body. And that is also very, very important to improve the bacterial health in your digestive system, without which nothing will work actually. The body will also not work, brain will also not work. Inflammation, as I said, is one main root cause. In India, we have actually a lot of anti-inflammatory herbs. Use more of them and learn how to use them more effectively. If you have deficiencies, please use targeted nutritional supplements for a period of time while you address the reasons why you have deficiency. Supplement should not be a lifelong thing. Incorporate a process for regular detoxification, periodic, and add, do things which will reduce the unwanted bacteria in the body and increase the amount of friendly bacteria, probiotics, etc. These are very simple things that everybody can do. And believe me, you will be surprised at the impact it will have on your health. We'll skip this part. See, finally, if you look at everything that functional medicine knows about health, it can be summarized in just 3 points: crap food, toxins, and stress. That is all. Just 3 things. Okay. Everything is covered in these 3 categories. And definitely, this is something that we can control, right? So if you want to have optimal health, you need to maximize what the body wants, right? Raw materials, oxygen, water, minerals, antioxidants, proteins, healthy fats, and a strong belief that yes, you can be healthy, and minimize, take out what is harmful, what is not needed, toxins, infections, allergens, stress, trauma, limiting beliefs, negative expectations. Use the power of the mind also in your favor, not against yourself. Prioritize, create an environment for healing. Give that thing importance in your life. That is actually, probably that should be the top thing, because if you do that, the others will happen, right? But we don't. So that's more or less what I wanted to share. I don't know how many of you I have managed to put to sleep, but if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Good evening. At the outset, I am Raghavendra.
Mm-hmm.
Can
Yes,
you hear me, Siddarth?
Yes, I can.
A big round of thank you to my good friend, Mr. Vishu Hegde, my senior at Ramakrishna Vidyarthi Mandiram. I am a physician myself. However, I have been learning, reading, listening to this new development, which is actually not new, but it has been age-old, as you have been repeatedly telling, the functional medicine, which has its root in Ayurveda and yoga and all that.
Correct.
However, it's been such a delight for a wealth management coach to get into health management and listen to the same person with such expertise and such clarity of thought. It has been amazing. I'm myself getting a bit guilty because having known everything, you still tend to get into the wrong modes of living. Always the old ways are tempting. However, it's been very enlightening. Thank you for such this thing.
Thank you. Thank you for your kind words.
Presentation. Thank you.
Hi. Thank you so much for your session. Most of the things that you said, a lot of us know everything, but the point is, to hear it again, to hear it, that it really gives a push to actually try it out. So could you just sort of, repeat the things you want us to forego for a month?
Okay. So essentially, milk products, okay? Wheat, sugar, these are actually the three most important. Okay. If you want more, you can add refined oils to that. Okay. If you want more, you can remove, non-vegetarian products for a month. Not necessarily because I'm against non-vegetarian stuff, but the quality of non-vegetarian food that is available is pathetic. Okay, we have no idea how it's coming to us. So for that reason. But the three biggest culprits are milk, wheat, and sugar.
Correct. Yeah. Another thing, like I just wanted to add to my this thing that even the dals and whatever rice and stuff we eat, there's never any guarantee. Like if you buy organic, really don't know if it was organic. So is there any preferred way to know which brands will work or which will not work and which has totally organic and stuff?
Yeah, so see, I understand what you're saying is a very valid situation in our country, at least, where we don't have the required controls and etc., right, about this. But that doesn't mean that there are no genuine farmers, etc., who are actually doing organic farming. Yes, it may take a certain amount of effort to go out, and start looking for them and find them, but it's very much there.
Thank you so much for your session. So really big push to try it again. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Myself, Dr. Mamta. I'm an Ayurvedic practitioner. So whatever you told me, it's everything from the basics of the Ayurveda, most of the things related to
Exactly.
Agni.
Yes.
Yeah. I just wanted to request you to throw more light on how would the toxins can mimic the hormones.
No, so I did not say toxins are mimicking hormones, but there can be some chemicals which can come into the body, and their chemical structure is similar to our hormones, some hormones. I don't have ready slide etc. to show that, but there are actually many disease dynamics in the body that are now being understood are happening because of this mimicry process. And in fact, the reason why, let's say your immune system is, let's say, attacking your thyroid and you're getting Hashimoto's thyroiditis, can also be molecular mimicry. Okay. Disease starts in the gut, as I said, right? For some reason, there is a leak in the lining of the intestine, which is supposed to be an intelligent filter, absorbing only what is needed, keeping the rest out. But because this leak has happened now, stuff that should not have entered is entering the body. And some of this, when the immune system sees this stuff, it starts reacting by producing antibodies, trying to kill all this, thinking it's a invasion, stranger danger dynamic, it's called in functional medicine. What happens is some of these molecules can resemble something in your body.
Okay.
And then the immune system, those antibodies will also start attacking that part of the body. So if it is something in the thyroid, you get Hashimoto's. If it is something in your joints, you get rheumatoid arthritis. Okay. You may get lupus, you may get, something else. But molecular mimicry is actually quite a well understood process now. I mean, this is something which has probably happened in the last 15 odd years, but now it's quite well understood that there is this is a strong driver of autoimmune related issues, especially autoimmune.
That's so nice to hear from you. All these toxins were mostly related to inflammatory responses rather than mimicking the hormone molecules. So this is a new info. Thank you so much.
Siddarth, I have one question. See, in Ayurveda, people give a lot of importance to buttermilk and ghee. So how does that relate here? You said all milk products.
Yes, very good question. So ghee, as long as it is good quality ghee that is made from hopefully Indian cows, A2, right? A2 ghee or A2 milk, and using the traditional method, which is known as Bologna ghee, okay, made from curd, actually not from milk. If that ghee you have access to, I mean, you can, if you want to, obviously it's available. That ghee is okay. You don't have to remove that ghee because the part of the milk that creates the problem is already removed. It's not there in the ghee. Okay. But buttermilk we want to avoid for a period of time, yes. See, otherwise buttermilk is good for the body. There is no doubt about it. Okay. It has many benefits. It brings healthy, friendly bacteria. It is cooling. It is cooling in nature. It's good for digestion, etc., etc. We definitely accept that. But the problem is that if your immune system has become oversensitive to something in the milk, that dynamic will not settle down unless we completely remove it. See, it's like, there is a wound. And every time we eat those foods, we are actually scratching the wound. It will never heal, right? You have to give it a break. You have to cover it and leave it. Only then it can heal. After the healing has happened, if you take buttermilk, no problem will come to you.
Okay. Okay, maybe I think since it's a little bit over time, we can officially close the session. But if people are interested, if they have questions, you can still hang around for some more time. Siddarth is okay for about another 10 minutes.
Thank you.
Yeah. So
I had a quick follow-up question, if possible.
Yes, please.
See, since you spoke about not having milk, so even curd is not to be had. Curd was supposed to be beneficial, I thought, and what to replace with for, calcium for a month.
Okay, so very good. So two questions, right? That curd is beneficial and why are we giving that up? So, I mean, that I think is very similar to the discussion we just had about buttermilk, right? Buttermilk is coming from curd only. So the same answer applies that yes, it has benefits, no doubt about it. But we are doing it for a specific time period because we want the aggravation of the immune system to stop. Only then the immune system will come back to normal behavior. Otherwise, it is in a red alert, shoot at sight orders. See, immune system is like the security force, right? When there is a terrorist attack on a city, red alert is declared, shoot at sight orders are given. Even if some innocent bystanders die, it's okay. Terrorists should not escape. The immune system is in that mode. For a short duration, it might be needed. It is fine. But if it is always in that mode, then we are in deep trouble, right? And that is what an autoimmune disorder is. So we have to ensure that everything the immune system has become sensitive to, and it is reacting like this, is cut out from our diet completely, right? For a period of time, which allows the entire healing process to happen. After that, if you have it again, it should not cause a problem. I mean, obviously, I'm simplifying it. There is more detail, right? But there's only so much I can cover right now. Yeah.
Just check the chat if anybody has any questions in the chat.
I've been looking. I don't think there is any.
I have a question, Dr. Siddarth. My name is Saraju.
Yes, Saraju.
Yeah. Okay. Let's say we have a certain lifestyle, which is fundamentally, the South Indian home cooking, home food eating kind of a lifestyle. And currently there are no such issues which has come up. And how do we kind of be aware and monitor the progress as we age? And is there any points that you would like to share on this? Because we have people of all age groups in the family, and then how do we be watching? There are any clues that it actually throws, and then we have to probably focus on something which should not be done in terms of food and things like that.
Very, very, very nice question, Saraju. Thank you for asking that. See, as I was mentioning in the context of diabetes, right, that actually, if I'm diagnosed today as a diabetic, the deal actually started minimum 10 years back in my body. The process actually started minimum 10 years back, right? So the question is, did it give you any symptoms? Forget blood test and all that, but did it give you some physical or mental symptom? It always does. Always does. The issue is with our lack of ability to listen to the body, to pay attention to the body's signals, our awareness. Okay. So without going into technicalities of, okay, what kind of testing you can do on a, let's say, an annual basis, what is it that you need to look for without going into all of that? So I started one batch of the hormone research program yesterday, Saturday. Okay. And somebody who has learned yoga from me many years back, she said, I am thinking about this. I don't have any major issues, but I'm getting hair fall and I'm beginning to put on weight. So now the question is, should I enroll for a 12-week program in that situation, right? Generally, the answer will be no. Okay, it's a small problem, hair fall, a little bit of weight gain, it's okay. How I would want to look at it is that this is a signal that the body is giving you that you need to start paying attention. There are some small things that are beginning to go wrong enough for you to see physical expression of that externally in the body, right? See, internally what's happening, we don't know. But at least externally, when the symptoms have started coming like this, that is the time for you to take a pause and see what is it that might be going wrong, why these things might be happening, right? I hope that answers your question.
Yes.
There will always be signs and symptoms like that.
We have to be sensitive to catch it. Thank you.
Body is always talking to us every single day. We don't listen, that's all. We take it for granted.
Siddarth, I have a question. When you want to, detox the body. So what about fruits? Is it good idea to have fruits or selective fruits, or is it better to avoid?
No, so for most people, yes, fruits are a very good option for detox. You can just go on a fruit diet for a period of time, right? The lesser the number of different fruits, the more effective it will be. Okay. Only for people who are, diabetic and all, fruits might not be a very supportive thing, because finally fruits are also sugar, natural sugar. But if your body is unable to handle sugar, at all, then fruits might cause a problem. Otherwise, fruits are wonderful.
Thank you.
Okay, I think probably we can close the session. Thanks a lot, Siddarth. It was very nice, very flowing session. Even I could connect logically the whole flow, the cause and effect and the chain reactions, and as well what can be done to that. Thanks a lot for sharing all these things. So we'll see how we can look at few other things beyond this in the next few sessions as well.
Wonderful.
Thank you all for coming on.
Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah.
Thank you, Siddarth. Thank you, Vishu.
Thank you. So we'll share this recording for anybody else to look at and reflect.
Thank you, Siddarth.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Take care.